بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. I am very delighted that in such a great evening of the birth anniversary of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, we are together and we are celebrating the birth of Imam alayhi salam. I hope inshallah our ma'rifah and mahabba and ta'ah for Imam will increase day by day, and inshallah Imam finds us true followers and true helpers for himself, inshallah. Today we would inshallah try to have some reflections on dua Allahumma kulli waliyyika al-hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Some people call it dua Faraj, some people say dua Faraj is another dua, so we say dua Allahumma kulli waliyyik. Before I go into the content of dua, we will talk a little bit about the history of this dua and the chain of narrators for this dua. Shaykh Kulaini rahmatullah alayh in Al-Kafi, which is one of our 4 major collections of hadith, one of Kutub Arba'ah, quotes this dua from Muhammad ibn Isa, and then from one of the Salihin. He doesn't mention the name of the Imam. You know, we have some hadith that sometimes the name of Imam, maybe because of taqiyya or because it was very obvious, is not mentioned. And also he says from Muhammad ibn Isa, and he doesn't mention the people who are between him and Muhammad ibn Isa. But those who are familiar with the way Shaykh Kulaini narrates hadith and they know his masters, they say it should be through Ahmad ibn Muhammad Asimi, from Ali ibn Hasan ibn Ali ibn Fadl, and then Muhammad ibn Isa. The reason also, or the occasion for which he mentions this dua, is for the night of the 23rd of month of Ramadan, which is very likely to be the night of Qadr. But he says you can say this dua in all month of Ramadan and other occasions. So it's not exclusive to the night of the 23rd, but it is specifically mentioned. And last month of Ramadan, in one of the nights of Qadr, I think I mentioned this point that there's a special connection between Laylatul Qadr and Imam of our time, and we should remember him in that night. Sayyid ibn Tawus rahmatullah alayhi, one of our very great and respected and pious scholars, that many ulama say he was one of those people who had honor of meeting Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Sayyid ibn Tawus is very respected, like Bahrul Ulum. So in his book Iqbalul A'mal, from some of his ashab, some of the people that he trusted, including Ibn Abi Qurra, narrates, and then those ashab like Ibn Abi Qurra from their own sources, from Ali ibn Hassan ibn Ali ibn Fadl, and he from Muhammad ibn Isa ibn Ubaid, similar to what we had in Kulayni's book. And then Muhammad ibn Isa ibn Ubaid, according to his chain of narrations, from Ma'sumin. He also mentions this dua for the night of the 23rd of month of Ramadan, but says you can say it anytime in the month of Ramadan, and you can then say it outside month of Ramadan. Shaykh Kaf'ami, in his books of dua and books on related to Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, also has mentioned this hadith, this dua, which is mentioned in the hadith. So but Shaykh Kaf'ami doesn't mention chain of narrators. So some have mentioned, like Sayyid ibn Tawus and Kulayni. Some have not mentioned, like Kaf'ami. But all in all, there is a strong ground to authenticate the hadith that involves and includes and contains this dua, and especially the chain of Kulayni and Sayyid ibn Tawus have been considered by some people as authentic, as sahih. And the fact that Shaykh Kulayni, who was so close to the time of beginning of Ghaibah, mentions this, is very important for us. The content is also very important, and therefore we see our ulama throughout the centuries have highly regarded this dua. Of course, there are some slight variations. For example, in Al-Kafi and some sources, we have Allahumma kull waliyyika fulan ibn fulan. So the name of Imam Zaman is not mentioned. Fulan ibn fulan. It's kept somehow secret. But it is clear that it is for Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Therefore, you can say instead of Fulan ibn Fulan, Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Kaf'ami and Sayyid ibn Tawus, instead of Fulan ibn Fulan, they have said Al-Qa'im bi-Amrik, Al-Hujjah Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, or Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi. So this is also some scholars have quoted. So this is one difference. In some says Fulan ibn Fulan, in some they have specifically mentioned the name and kunya or title of Imam alayhi salam. Another thing that you may find different is that in some versions there is Va'aunan. Allahumma kulla waliyyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'ih fi hadhihi as-sa'ah wa fi kulli sa'ah waliyan wa hafidan wa qa'idan wa nasiran wa aunan. Or for example, wa dalilan wa aunan wa aina. Something like this. So they have put aunan as well in some versions, which would be similar to Nasir, because Nasir and Aun are very similar. So it's not going to change the meaning. In any case, we have enough and adequate evidence to trust this dua, especially because the content is very beautiful, very meaningful, very reliable, acceptable, and great scholars like Shaykh Kulayni, Sayyid ibn Tawus, they have mentioned this dua. So let us now have a quick review of the content of this dua. Allahumma. So this is dua. We call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my God, my Lord. Kun لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظ. Kun is command, is فعل أمر, which when it is said in this context is request. If it is said from someone who is higher, it becomes amr. Or if someone who is not higher but is saying with isti'la, sometimes a child commands his father. The child is not higher, but he assumes the position of leadership or command. He says to father, give me this. But say to mother, give me this. In the case of dua, neither we have uluv nor we have isti'la. It's a request. It's istid'a. Oh Allah, please be for your wali, who is Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. And then because we have adab of a person who is remembering Hujjah of time, before we go to our request, we say salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'ih. May your salutations be upon him and his fathers. So this salawat that we are sending, which is requesting Allah to send salutations to Imam and his fathers, is a manner, is an etiquette that we should observe. And this by itself is a great dua, and inshallah this is accepted. And this would add to the chance of the whole dua being accepted. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'ih. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة can be for salawatuka alayhi and can be for kun. Either it means your salutations be upon him and his fathers in this time and every time, as we say, for example, to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, alayka minni salamullah abadan ma baqit wa baqiya al-layl. I am limited in time, but I can initiate salam or salutations which would be continuing even after I die. Because a dua, many times we said, in dua, expand your ambition. You can say, oh Allah, send salawat to Imam now, or send salawat till I am alive, or you can say forever. Why you don't make your dua expanded? So صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة في كل ساعة. This can be for salawat or can be for the main dua. كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا. Means those things that we request from Allah to be with respect to his wali, I want it now and every time. To be wali, to be hafiz, to be qa'id, to be nasir, to be dalil, to be ain. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة. Both can be possible. Now, what are the things that we are requesting here? The first thing is waliyan. If you have noticed, you are already saying that he is wali of God. Yeah? Kun liwaliyika. waliyan. This confirms what we said about wilaya, that wilaya is mutual, from top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, and also horizontal. Imam is wali of Allah, and we are requesting Allah also to be his wali. Means to accept his wilaya, to be his guardian, to keep Imam under his guardian. Like Rasulullah said, Allahumma wali man wala. Wale means you be wali for whoever is wali of Ali in Hadith Qadir. Now we are asking Allah, please be wali for your wali. But is this dependent on our dua, or he is already wali of his wali? Because whether we make this dua or not, Imam is already wali of Allah, and Allah is wali. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. We don't need to, perhaps someone says we don't need to make this dua. This is already happening. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. How can Allah not be wali for Imam who is his wali, who is his hujjah? The answer is that I mentioned 2 points. Maybe there are more points. Right now, 2 points come to my mind. One is that all these things have degrees. This answer helps you in other cases as well. Although Allah is wali, but wilaya of Allah has degrees. Rasulullah is very high, very close to Allah, but still this has degrees. So there is no harm in asking warfa' darajatah. It's not waste of your dua to ask warfa' darajatah. Imam is wali of Allah, and Allah is wali, as Quran confirms, Allah waliyul ladina amanu, and Imam is Imamul Mu'minin. But we can ask for this to be increased. These are all a ladder which has infinite degrees, infinite steps, and they can always rise. So our dua is in its place. Point 2. Many times our du'as are to tune ourselves to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I repeat, many times our du'as are to tune ourselves to the will of Allah, and after that, then your du'as, other du'as, would be more likely to be successful. When we have a radio set, first we need to tune it to the station. When there is good connection with the station, then we will have clear signal. Or for example, in music, I don't know it's for all the instruments or not, but they have something, they call it cook kardan. In Farsi they say cook kardan. Perhaps in English they say tune, or I don't know, set, or I don't know what they call. That before they start playing this instrument, they have to set it, they have to tune it, test it. When the voice is, the sound is good and clear, then they play. This is used in Farsi for many other things as well, but the origin is from music instruments, a cook kardan. Sometimes it is also used for setting alarm clock, for example, they say cook kardan, or for, in the past, they used to charge the, clock or watch with there was a spring inside. They used to turn it few times and charge it. This was called cook kardan. So, in our du'as, first, we need to tune ourselves and set ourselves so that we are in compliance with Allah's will. Sometimes we do this by mentioning some of our aqa'id. We mention, for example, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We mention Walaya, Imam. Sometimes we do this by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we do this by expression of tawalli and tabarri, by asking Allah to send salam and salutations to His friends, to His awliya, to send salawat, for example, to the Prophet. Whether I do this or I don't do it, this is happening. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. But you should tune yourself. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. So it's not good that Allah and His angels do something and we miss it, or na'udhu billah, we do opposite thing. We need to be in compliance with this. There needs to be harmony. So Allah is wali of His wali, but my request is helping me to be in right harmony. Plus the first point that I said, there are degrees. Waliyan wa hafidha. In particular, we want to mention few things. Although maybe all these things are included in wilaya. When Allah is wali, He would certainly do what is needed for protection, for guidance, for support, etc. Yeah? If you are wali of someone, what do you do? If you are guardian of someone, what do? You will not let that person alone when there is risk, when there is danger. Allah protects mu'mineen. Allah waliyul ladina amanu. Part of it is to protect them. يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. To take them from darkness to light, to guide them. But because we are very concerned with safety and protection of our Imam, in particular, we request وَحَافِظًا. Please protect our Imam. We are not able to protect our Imam. Yes, we can pray, we can give sadaqah, but we are not in a position to actually directly protect him. We are not able to sacrifice our life to protect our Imam. Previous Imams, their Shia had this honor that they could offer their lives to protect their Imams. But in time of Ghaibah, we don't have this honor. We cannot protect our Imam. So we only rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a lecture in the Hose, London, but maybe 2 years ago, I talked about why we should pray for Imam Zaman and what is my understanding of the need for prayer. Because someone may say, Imam is going to be alive definitely, because before this world finishes, he's going to establish universal justice. So why you are worried? He must be alive. Otherwise, this promise of Allah would not happen. In that lecture, I have explained that this is not what we understand from our du'as. We have lots of du'as for support of Imam Zaman, protection of Imam Zaman. One reason is because, first of all, it's not only just a matter of life. It's the matter of also condition of life, quality of life. For example, health is very important. Happiness is very important. If enemies make Imam ill or make, for example, Imam unhappy or annoy him, hurt him, these are also important. Plus, it is true that Allah has made this promise, but it doesn't mean that we don't have responsibility. Like, for example, Allah has promised to protect Quran. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. But this doesn't need to happen only miraculously. Part of it is through the efforts of Muslims that they have to register, they have to memorize, they have to preserve. So Allah does His things, His plan many times through people. لولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض. Allah many times implements His plans by using some people to protect against other people who are vicious. So not only Allah protects mosques and places of worship, He protects His wali. But it doesn't conflict with saying that we have also responsibility. At least we should make dua and give sadaqah. So, waliyan wa hafidha. This hifz is very important. Wa qa'idan. We are asking Allah to lead and to guide our Imam. Again, whether we ask or not, this is going to happen. But you have to be in harmony and you have to pray, and your prayer matters. Even if it is a little, it has value, it adds to it. And there's no reason it has to be little. Maybe it can add a lot. Our du'as for Imam are very useful for Imam and for ourselves. We shouldn't say, no, there is no need. Imam doesn't need my dua. Imam needs your dua, and you also need these du'as. So we ask Allah to be leader for Imam, to help him. Because Imam's guidance is from Allah. He is Mahdi, but not Mahdi by people. Mahdi means guided. But as the Quran says, there are two options. أَفَمَنْ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعَ أَمَّنْ لَا يَهْدِي إِلَّا أَنْ يُهْدَى. Which one is better to follow? Someone who guides to the truth, or someone who himself doesn't find guidance unless he is guided by people? So it means that either you guide to the truth or you need guidance from people. So this means that according to Quranic standards, Al-Hadi is the one who doesn't need guidance from people. When Quran says, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُنْذِرٌ وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ هَادٍ, this had is not a scholar. Because scholars need guidance. Scholars need to be taught. This لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ هَادٍ is someone that is guided by Allah directly. So Imam is Mahdi, but Mahdi by God. He needs Hidayah, but Hidayah comes directly from Allah. And then he is Hadi for us. This is very, very important. This is like We say in Farsi, rag hayat, means it's like the blood vessel which is needed for life. It's a matter of life and death. If Imam is disconnected from Allah, he's finished. As Imam, he's finished. When Rasulullah for some time didn't receive wahy, he was so worried, so concerned. Although Allah had not abandoned him, but he was very worried. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please keep guiding Imam in general and in all matters. Our du'as are to put us in harmony, are to help us, but also is beneficial for Imam. Maybe without our dua this is going to continue, but with our dua this would be stronger. This would be easier. Vanasra, please be his helper. Please make things easy for him. He has lots of challenges. Even to be able to cope with all the problems for such a long time, this is not easy. How can a human, because he's a human being, basharun mithlukum, yeah? All the prophets were human beings, imams are human beings. How can someone who is basharun mithlukum for centuries see so much of tragedies? Especially, I think, all problems of the world are one side. What he sees in us, which would not be right and would not be pleasing, is another side. What pain he has when he is observing problems in his community, I think would be much more than the rest of the world. Not that because there are less problems in the rest of the world, no. But this is his own camp. Imagine if you have, for example, imagine you have a school. Only 100 people are in a school. One student commits theft. Outside the school, thousands of people commit theft. But how much you suffer when you hear that one student in your school has committed theft. Many teachers outside do bad things. Maybe some teachers outside, abuse, I don't know, maybe even kill. But even if one teacher in this school does something disgraceful, even much lesser degree, your heart will be broken. We don't know how much we can cause pain to our Imam. And he is seeing all this, especially people that they have all their honor and respect from Imam, like ulama, like talabe, like mu'mineen, elderly members of community, people who give lectures. I don't know, people somehow think they are more close to Imam. If they do something wrong, it causes greater pain to Imam. So our du'as are, inshallah, bringing some more help from Allah for Imam, in addition to other things, that all the tasks that he has, even now, let alone when he comes. Waliyan wa nasra. وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا. This dalil very closely connected to, again, wilaya is closely connected to qa'id, to be his dalil. Maybe the difference, there is a little difference we can mention between qa'id and dalil. Perhaps qa'id is showing direction, but dalil is someone who counsel with you. If I want to go to somewhere and I take a dalil with me, means I take someone who is familiar with that area and comes with me. So maybe in dalil there is more intimate relation when it comes to giving direction to Imam. Wa'ayna, then this is the peak of it, perhaps, that be an eye for him. When a leader and a guide and dalil becomes your eye, then it's much closer, because if it has become my eye, it means now I can myself see. I don't need someone to tell me. I imagine I have internalized that dalil and has become myself, part of myself. If Allah becomes ayn, your ayn, as we have in hadith Qurb al-Nawafil, then you can see with this eye the truth and everything. Okay, how long this should continue? وَلِيًّا وَحَافِظًا وَقَائِدًا وَنَاصِرًا وَدَلِيلًا وَعَيْنًا. How long? حَتَّى تُسْكِنَهُ أَرْضَكَ طَوْعًا. This should continue till the mission is accomplished. Not for our generation, 2 generations, 100 years, 200 years. No. حَتَّى تُسْكِنَهُ أَرْضَكَ, till you establish him on your earth, on this earth, taw'an. There are different interpretations for taw'an. Maybe we can say it means till you establish him on the earth with taw', means the whole earth and inhabitants would be obedient, not rebellious. We don't want to be karhan. Sometimes something happens by force. Some of the things that Allah wants to happen is going to happen taw'an aw karha. They want or they don't want, it's going to happen, if it's iradi takwini. But in the case of Faraj, because Faraj is the fruit of this world, is the result of this world, is the peak of the progress of humanity. This should not be through iradi takwini only. This should not be by force. Otherwise Allah could have done it much earlier. You cannot give A to students by forcing them to give the right answers. You say in our school everyone finally gets A. But how? We force them and dictate the right answers. This is not A. In the school of humanity, Faraj is to get A. But it should be taw'an. They should voluntarily welcome Imam. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Not that they are given rest and justice, whether they like it or they don't like it. No. حَتَّى تُسْكِنَهُ أَرْضَكَ طَوْعًا. وَتُمَتِّعَهُ فِيهَا طَوِيلًا. Also, when this happens, we don't want this to be for a short period of time. Thousands of years, humanity has waited for that stage. So that stage, we request you, please make it long, so that our Imam would continue that universal justice and honorable governance, dawlatan karima, tawilan, for a long time. Okay, this was a short reflection on dua, Allahumma kulli waliyyak. I hope inshallah from now on, when we read this dua and recite this dua, this session inshallah would help us to have more connection inshallah with this dua and to our Imam inshallah. May Allah inshallah hasten the Faraj of Imam Zaman Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, and may Allah help us to meet his expectations and be a source of joy for Imam, not na'udhu billah, pain or concern. May Allah give shifa to all people who are ill. May Allah preserve for us our maraji, our ulama, our teachers, our volunteers, and whoever is doing something good, who does ihsan, who does charity, who brings light to this world. May Allah preserve them. May Allah give you inshallah long life. And please remember me in your du'as. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you very much, Shaykh Al-Kareem.
Thank you very much. I am
yes.
Sorry. I am sorry. I very much want to be with you for all program, but now they are waiting for me, and I am already, I think, late for a program we have in Qom. So, inshallah, remember me your du'as and pray that program also goes well, inshallah. And I pray this program up to end, inshallah, would be very pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And please forgive me, especially those who have presentations. I very much want to be with you, but inshallah I am going to have the recording, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shaykh. Allah give you tawfiq. Please pray for us.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan. Ahsantum.
Ahsanallah alaykum.
Tumasada fi aman.
Indeed.